Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thursday Night Football, episode 88 of the Lions Den podcast. It's a small crew today. We're going to have a couple more people jump on later today. But we're here to talk about everything that's been happening over the past 2 weeks. Feels like it's been an eternity since we were last here, but we're back now. And we have a big game coming up this Saturday against Tigres. Later on, we'll be joined by Tigres English's own Luis. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's jump right into it. Louis, what's going on, my man?
Yeah, man. As we were talking about just now before going live, was watching the international games involving our players and just hoping and praying that they all ended without any serious injuries to our players. That's really the only thing I care about in these international breaks. Yeah, I like watching the games. And yeah, especially, I want United States to win. But anything else going on involving our players, I just want to make sure there's no injuries. And it seems that there weren't. And now all we have to worry about is how soon can they get back to the squad and contribute.
Well, we already have the Mexican selection all those back.
Well, yeah, that's a different situation.
That's a different situation.
They were closer. They were only one flight away instead of two. And
they didn't get any playing time.
They played a day earlier, which made their travel back much more straightforward. And yeah, none of them played a single minute, which I have some pretty strong feelings about that.
Positive or negative?
Negative. Like, my biggest thing is, why do we bother releasing them for this international duty? Why do we even bother if they're not going to get any playing time? I mean, at least I'm hoping that, and expecting them to be back fully fit and fresh and able to go 90 right away, and hopefully with a little chip on their shoulder to spending all this time, this whole international window, not seeing a single minute of playing time. Well, now they're going to be back in the league and probably starting, all three of them, maybe not Avion, but the other two most likely are going to be starting.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they got a chip on their shoulder and they want to have a good game against Tigres. That's the best thing we can hope for with that. But yeah, it's so frustrating to release these players and then just have them be spectators for the entire international window. I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating for them too. But yeah, what's the point? I just don't.
I mean, that's one of the reasons Montes stopped going, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't go, there's going to be backlash, and it's going to be like, well, don't you feel proud? You should feel proud to get called up, and it's just
especially in the case of Osfi and Avion, who are still younger-ish players and kind of having to pay their dues and work up the hierarchy. In Cota's case, I don't see an instance where he ever plays again with the selección.
Yeah.
So but I'm also not too concerned about his form and fitness, about not seeing activity and being ready to go when he comes back. I mean, I don't think we have to worry too much about that in his case. But yeah, it's just frustrating to see these guys go and not get any playing time. And it's frustrating on the other end to see guys like Meneses and Tecillo and Mena go and play so much and then have this really, really short turnaround to get back with the team and be ready for Tigres. So that's the other frustrating thing. At least they are central figures in their squads. Meneses scoring a goal just about an hour ago as we're recording this with Chile. So, and Tecillo and Mena being regular starters. Neither of them started their club's matches today. But yeah, I mean, at least with them, you can kind of understand it because they're central figures in their international clubs. But yeah, the Mexicanos, why do we even bother? I don't know. It's really frustrating.
It is. It seems like the more veteran players, especially the South American players, are the ones that get the most playing time. But I mean, I'm pretty sure it's frustrating. I was really looking forward to seeing Avion hopefully make his debut with La Selección Mexicana, but it didn't go his way. But anyways, enough of that. Let's get into this last game that we didn't even recap. We didn't even talk about.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it since it happened. That is absolutely true.
Let's talk about it because you were there, right?
I was there.
So tell me, go ahead and jump in. What was it? What was it like?
Well,
I hear it was a Liguilla type atmosphere.
Yeah, well, I showed up an hour early, which I thought would be plenty of time to find whatever seats that I wanted. There's no lugares numerados right now because of COVID. I mean, some seats are green and others are red, and you just get there and you find whatever green ones are available in the section that your ticket is for, and you sit there. And I thought, well, in previous matches I've been getting there an hour early, and I was one of the first people there. So I figured it wouldn't be any different this time. But no, I got there, and my entire section, almost all of the available seats were full. So I had to sit much closer to the field than I'm normally comfortable with. Like sitting courtside is great in basketball. It's not that great in football because you can't. It's hard to tell what's going on, especially if you're at one end of the pitch. It's really hard to see what's going on at the other. And then the players are overlapping in your line of sight, and you can't really tell always where the ball is, when it's gone out of play, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're close to the action, which is cool. I was close to Richard Sanchez's red card. I saw it. I had a front row seat for that.
Yeah.
It happened right in front of me. That was kind of cool.
Gruesome.
Luckily not resulting in any injury to Meneses, but it was a pretty gruesome intervention, and I had a front row seat for that. Front row seat to the players warming up. I mean, it doesn't really faze me that much these days to be close to the players as much as I run into them at hotels and airports and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had an unusual vantage point from what I usually like to have at stadiums. I like to be higher up so I can see the entire field, no problem. Have a good perspective of what's going on in play. But yeah, man, people were hyped up for this one. They wanted to get there early and they wanted to be there, and they couldn't wait for it to start. And yeah, it was definitely Liga type atmosphere, despite
it lived up to it, though, right?
And despite not having full stadium capacity, it felt like it was full.
Yeah,
just because of the energy that people brought.
Though.
Yeah, and it lived up to the hype in terms of the way the game played out. Absolutely. Yeah.
Incredible matchup. What do you think about the penalty? Was it the right call, or was there I don't know, maybe the referee was kind of skewed one way, or do you think he made the right call on that Andres Mosquera penalty?
No, I don't know how you could say that it wasn't the right call. I mean, he's
yeah.
And that's not, this wasn't one of those. I didn't even really see these are the kind of situations. I was on that side of the field, and it was a set piece, so I basically saw a line of players all blocking each other in my line of sight. There was no way I was going to see exactly what happened. And of course, when you're watching the game live, and the big screen at Estadio León is not really
big screen.
It's not really up to 21st century standards in terms of replays, shall we say? So there was no way I was going to really know. And then of course all the cellular data was saturated, and there was no Wi-Fi in the stadium. So it's not like I could go on my phone onto Twitter and see what had happened. So I had no idea until I saw the replay much later. But seeing the replay later, I think it was a PK, and it's one of the frustrating ones because like Mosque, you just can't grab a guy like that in the area, especially when it's against America. They're going to call it every single time. Like you can't put your arms around a dude like that. You just can't do it.
I mean, but I have a little pushback here.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen those plays all over LigaMX every weekend. Like there's always pulling in the box, and nothing ever gets called. The referee just goes, play on. There's bodies all over the floor every weekend, and nothing ever happens. But this time it was called. I agree with you. It was the right call. I would have called it as well, but I think they just got to be more consistent with it, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a whole nother argument. I feel like, I mean, if we're just talking about whether it was the right call or not, and he's got to do a better job of marking without bear hugging, especially when he's our most liable to give up a PK in any sense, in any situation. He's got to be more aware of that. He's got to be better about that. He can't give them the opportunity to make those calls. He just can't. Some of them are unlucky, just a hand and arm in the wrong place, whatever. Some of them you can forgive him for more than others. I think this was one that was avoidable. He can't defend that way, and he shouldn't have to feel like he needs to defend that way. I don't know. It was frustrating, and of course that changed the game. What was it? The 5th minute? I don't remember exactly when it was. It was really, really early on, and that completely changed the game.
It did. But these guys, we've seen the resiliency in these guys. They always come back. We've been down before, and I mean, what a beautiful goal that was, the one that we scored.
It was, absolutely. And again, I couldn't really that was on the opposite side of the field from where I was sitting, and being that close, I couldn't really tell completely how it developed. And like, all the players were overlapping in the box, and so I couldn't. It was just kind of looked like a jumbled mess. Obviously, the end result was very exhilarating, but then when I was finally able to see it on replay, I mean, what a play by Omar Fernandez, to and the combination play with him and Davila. I mean, we just have such a great attacking core right now, and when they can finish, it's just a thing of beauty. Unfortunately, they had trouble finishing the whole rest of the game after that, and even playing a man up, which was kind of frustrating. But yeah, I mean, the goal to tie things back up was a thing of beauty for sure.
Yeah, great goal. Being a man up, though, Ariel Holan opted for two target strikers, Gigliotti and Ormeño. Do you think that was the right move? Because when you're down to 10 men, you're just gonna park the bus. That's not really how you're supposed to play against a park the bus. You're supposed to try to bring them out of their zone and try to use what you were doing before, which is
I think in theory it was a good strategy. They were getting a lot of balls in. It's just that America's bus parkage was a little more effective than our finishing at the end.
Yeah.
They, I think their fans should be a little disappointed. Like, they weren't even I felt like they weren't even trying to force a dangerous counter. What you do when you park the bus is you hopefully try to force a dangerous counter. They just didn't want to give up the winner. They seemed happy to leave there with a 1-1.
Yeah.
And for a club like that, especially top in the table, no, you went a man down, but you still have to try to get a better result out of this match. I feel. I don't know. If I were their fans, I don't know how I'd feel about their approach to the rest of the game, or how happy I would have been with really what looked to be settling for a 1-1, settling for a draw. I mean, you're top in the table. This is the match of the jornada. This is 1 and 2 in the table, and
maybe I think they just figured, hey, we got nothing to lose. If we get out of here with the point, we're still in first place.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. For that club in that situation, I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I would have hoped they would have taken a little more risks, but primarily because that probably would have opened up the area a little bit more for our attackers to finish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's not what ended up happening. We get a 1-1 draw, which I think feels like a loss. It feels more like a loss than a win, for sure. But just considering the situation, they were already the better team, I felt like, before going up a man. Then they went up a man and couldn't take advantage. So it doesn't feel. It has a little bit of bitterness attached to it. Also, you want to beat America at home anytime. It doesn't matter the circumstances. You want the win. The draw's not gonna give you that full satisfaction.
Yes, sir. Let's go over some quick performance reviews. I don't think anybody really had a bad game. I can't think of anybody who had a bad game, but I think one person who had a really, really good game and who's really solidifying his position in the midfield is Santiago Colombato. 1 through 10. What do you rate my man Colombato, Colombaby?
Just in this match or on the whole?
Just against America.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did he get carded?
I don't think so. But he did give the pass to Omar Fernandez that led to the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Omar was more responsible for the goal than either the goal scorer or anyone else in the build-up. I mean, his footwork on that play was incredible. But I mean, it's hard to remember at this point Colombato's match on the whole. But I mean, I'm always impressed with him. I mean, I think he's been such a gem. It's funny.
He's what, 23, 24?
Yeah.
He's such a young guy.
I mean, hopefully we can. I'm really glad they locked up his contract for the next few years, because I think by the time he leaves here, he's going to be worth double or triple what they paid for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a great addition. It's so funny, the two sides of the coin with him, because when you watch him play and you watch him get involved in the game and the build up and getting the ball forward and everything, he's just so calm, cool, collected. I mean, he came back 2 days from the Olympics and started the game against Querétaro and looked like, yeah, cool, whatever, just whatever you need me to do, coach, and he just goes in and does it, and he seems so natural and has such a cool head in terms of his skill. And then he just has these moments where he acts like a doofus and gets carded for no reason and turns into a hothead, and that doesn't end up. I mean, I suppose maybe he thinks like he's helping by getting under the other team's skin, and maybe he is, but like we don't, do it without getting carded,
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that, I feel like he's got some hot-headedness that he could stand to cool down, but man, he's just such an asset when he's in there. I mean, his skills are such an asset.
For a 24-year-old, he's a very composed midfielder. Like, he has great vision, great passing. And listen, man, when Navarro and Montes come back, like, I don't know what we're gonna do with that midfield, because they've been playing so well. I mean, second place for the past 3 weeks. They've been playing so well. So like, what do you do if you're Ariel Holland? Like, who do you substitute for Luis? I mean, you can't leave Luis Montes and Navarro on the bench.
No, but I think regardless,
do you tinker with what's working, or like what do you do?
Regardless, Colombato will remain in the starting lineup regardless of the availability of those other two.
So who do you bench?
I don't know who you sacrifice for him. I mean, there's been a little bit of variation. And you have to remember now that we have a pretty compressed schedule, have had and will continue to have a pretty compressed schedule coming up. So having those variantes available will be extremely valuable. I still think, I mean, Navarro, we're not talking about a serious return for Navarro and probably for another month, at least. But Montes, they're saying, could be available for this Saturday. I don't imagine he will start right away after having missed so much time. But suppose he comes in and plays 25 minutes or something like that, and then maybe he's available to start against Pumas in the League's Cup semifinal on Wednesday of next week. Like, that's the other thing to consider. Obviously, you really, really want to go in and beat Tigres at the Volcan. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe that League's Cup semifinal is more important. That's the thing about our returning international players too. Like, I really, really would love to have Tecillo and Meneses available. Mena has already been descartado. But I would really love to have those other two guys available against Tigres. But if they're not, I mean, worst case scenario is they come in super fresh against Pumas in the League's Cup. So at first I was really annoyed about them not being back, possibly not being back, any of those three. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, if Tecillo's not back, then, Osfi should be ready to go on the left wing. And we have Mosque and
Avion, maybe?
I mean, I guess, and Avion. Yeah. And, we still won't be looking too bad. I mean, I don't know who. I guess maybe Pedro Hernandez starts at that second center back spot. I don't know, because Ramiro's not ready to go.
He's pretty solid.
That's the only question. Him. That's the only question mark, really. But I don't know. Yeah. It's going to eventually be a very, very nice problem to have, I would say. Once we have a full complement of players available, because it's been great already. But that's just the signings they made have given us this luxury, and that's without Ormeño really showing us anything since the Campeón de Campeones. Like, he hasn't had a chance to shine out in league matches yet. He's been hurt, and he's been coming on and getting kind of just trash minutes, like not enough time to really get into the rhythm of the game at all. You're hoping he's the kind of guy who doesn't need that, who can just come in and be goal dangerous right away, and hopefully maybe that will be his role eventually. But he was our star signing, and he has not shown out yet. But, Omar Fernandez, even Elias Hernandez in spurts,
Oh,
People
totally forgot
complain
about
about him a
Elias.
little bit. Nah, he can't be a starter. He can't play 90. He's too old. He doesn't have the pace anymore. I mean, Elias has given us way more than I expected him to so far, and I think he'll continue to. And Omar Fernandez has just been great, and Colombato in his first full season with the club has been great. And yeah, it's nice to have these options and getting these guys back. I mean, it'll be a tough task for Holland to figure out where everybody goes. I would assume Navarro will eventually, whether or not it's his best position, really, I eventually expect him to take up his right back role again.
Yep.
But a right back who cuts in and cuts forward at will, and whenever he wants to, kind of with the freedom to get wherever he wants to go. And Montes, I mean, he's going to be in there once he's fully fit. He's going to be in there as a starter once he's fully fit. There's no way. I mean, I'm hoping maybe this time off, I think I said, when he went out that maybe this is a blessing in disguise because we have these guys who can cover for him, and maybe he'll come back and figure out a way to be more dangerous because they were, the jury, the word is kind of out on Montes, and
yeah,
the strategy for a lot of clubs against us is to just collapse on him.
Keep the ball out of his feet.
Right. So maybe the best thing for him when he comes back now is to be kind of a decoy, and create even more space and open things up even more for the other guys who've been in there putting in work while he's been out, and just opening things up for them. If you had Montes available against America, for example, even with America parking the bus, I mean, maybe that leaves Montes too open, and they have to bring a couple guys out on him, and then you get a few more dangerous balls in.
Exactly.
So it's never going to be a bad thing to have these guys available. It's going to be, especially with a compressed schedule, like whether you need to make different substitutions or have slightly different lineups depending on the opponent, or just having extra bodies and fresh legs available for a compressed schedule. There's another FIFA break coming up in October, which means more doble jornadas, and so it's just gonna be, and then going straight into Liguilla at the end of the season. You want to have as many healthy bodies as you can possibly get.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's never gonna be
it's gonna be a big month for us this month because we have big games coming up, big rivals, starting with Tigres this weekend, and we have that Leagues Cup that we're playing for this month. And if we can go all the way, we can probably win it this month. Quick thoughts on Cota's 5-year extension. It was announced about a week ago. He received a 5-year extension. I did not expect it because all these rumors that were going around about him kind of flirting with Chivas and kind of just putting out there into the ether that he wanted to go back to Chivas. But now it's official. 5 years. He penned a 5-year deal with Leon. Looks like he's going to be here for the rest of his career. I mean, I don't see him going anywhere else by the time he's 40.
I mean, even if he wants to retire at Chivas, it's going to cost Chivas a little something to get him back because he's on our books.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2 or 3 years, he wants to go back to Chivas, and he'll still have 2 or 3 years left on the deal. So they're gonna, they're not gonna get him for free. That was my thought. I was like, 5 years is an eternity, especially for a player who just turned 34. I know the career span of a goalkeeper is not the same as a field player. You can still be a very effective goalkeeper at age 39. But so either he stays for his career and becomes an absolute legend with Club Leon, maybe 2 or 3 more championships, and possibly the first international title in the club's history, which we're crazy to think is we're only 2 matches away from at this moment. I know it's only the Leagues Cup. It's not the Conca Champions or anything like that, but
it's something.
It's something. And, that final at packed house at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, that's
going to be fun.
That's going to be fun. And if they win, I mean, it's something. It's nothing to sneeze at. And it would be an international title that they didn't have before. And, not the same necessarily as Tigres winning their first Conca Champions, going and finishing second in the Club World Cup, whatever you want. But, I mean, it's something. And so, Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Cota coming back and definitely quashing all those rumors about him wanting to go back to Chivas. And yeah, so it's a nice feeling. I think I'm starting to wonder if this gets done without Holland, because the vibe around Holland right now is really, really good. Like, the players have seemed to have bought into what he wants to do. It took a little bit, but
Yep.
players want to do. And Chucho Martinez saying in an interview, yeah, I mean, we're loving Holland, and everybody wants to come to Leon, and players who left Leon want to come back, and and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, maybe just blowing hot air, but there might be some truth to it, and maybe that contributed to Cota wanting to stay long term. He really feels like
it's one of the
this
most.
could be this project. Maybe they feel like this project is a really viable thing going forward. So
It
I don't
is.
know. We'll see. Yeah.
It is. It's one of the most exciting projects in the league. I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of things, Leon, they're buying up players to have a quality roster. They're investing in a brand new stadium, which, by the way, is going to continue. The plans kind of got delayed because of COVID, but the plans are back in schedule. So you have all that, and then you have this new youth center where they're going to be developing youth talent, with state of the art, brand new. It's just built. So I mean, who wouldn't want to join Leon and be like, oh, long term, like this is actually it's a pretty good career decision, right?
Yeah.
I mean, back then maybe you'd be like, I don't know, Leon's. They're kind of under the radar. They're not as big of a club, but now it's like they're throwing money. Grupo Pachuca is throwing money into investing into the team, and now it's like, well, it's starting to look a little more like a nice destination to go to.
Yeah, they're investing they're making an investment worthy of the storied history that this club has, is how I would put it.
Yeah.
There were some dark years that we don't need to get into here with the club, but even there have even been moments during the Grupo Pachuca era that haven't been exactly what the fan base wanted. There were a few years here after the Campeonato that were kind of lackluster, and you were wondering about, do they really care about building a winner here? But I mean, you realize everything is a process and everything happens for a reason. They've been probably thinking about what we're finally seeing the fruits of now, coming to fruition, I should say, what they had planned all along. And things are looking positive in the next few years for this franchise. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, players want to, and Cota, I think Cota signing on for 5 more years is just kind of the first chip of many more to fall. Well, not even the first. Getting Ormeño and Omar Fernandez and getting the signings we did in this offseason after the season of after one season removed of being champions, and amidst all this news of, the new training facility and the new stadium, finally seeing progress. Like, it's all, these chips are starting to fall, and the Cota signing was one of them. And then, even Mena's extension, there was doubts about that too. We didn't know if he was bought in, and these guys seem bought in now. So it's positive vibes surrounding the club right now, regarding all of that, for sure.
Yes, sir. So we are about halfway through the episode. We're going to go ahead and switch gears and welcome Luis from Tigres English onto the podcast. Thank you for coming back on here, Luis. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, Carlos. Louis, how you doing?
Hey, man.
How you been, Luis? I mean, Luis.
Been doing well.
Sorry.
Been doing well.
I have 2 Louis here. I don't know whether to call you Louis or Luis.
I'll answer to either one.
All right. Hey, man. So talk to me about Tigres. How do you feel about Tigres currently? Are you guys in fourth? Is it fourth place? How do you feel about Tigres so far? You guys have had a pretty good season, I would say.
We were on the same boat as you guys at the beginning of the season. New coach, new system. So we went from Tuca to Piojo, and we had a really rough start. We got a win at the beginning against Xolos, but we didn't look that well. Only 5 shots on goal that game. We were very clinical and lucky to come out with the win, but then we had 3 pretty bad games. Toluca blasted us, and then we went and made a show in Seattle, lost to Seattle 3-0. Well, that was embarrassing. And then, tough game against Santos that We had a terrible first half and probably one of the worst first halves that I've seen since probably 2010. So it was a really rough start. I think a lot of our players had still Tuca's system in their
Uh-huh.
muscle memory, and
Uh-huh.
and in a lot of ways they weren't able to execute what Piojo wants out of them. But ever since Piojo switched to the five-man back line, the team has improved. We've looked a lot better. In having Aquino and Chaka in the back playing as wing backs has helped the three center backs to really keep the defense strong. We've had a lot of issues defensively, mainly because our defenders are aging and some are not very great, like Diego Reyes. And so we've kind of had to fix some of those issues as we go. But the team's looking better. Nico Lopez is on fire. I was just reading a stat right now that he's leading the league with 22 shots on goal.
Wow,
It's also
nice.
the leading goal scorer with 6. So there's a lot of positives there. Piojo had said before he even took over that he wanted a more vertical team, a team that played a lot more in the opponent's final third. Uh, you know, recover the ball in the middle third to be able to score and take shots. And we're starting to see it now. If you compare the games we played this year to last, same teams, we have more shots on goal, more shots overall. And so we're taking more risk, and it's starting to pay off slowly.
Nice. Yeah. Looks like a more offensive team too. Um, I know a couple weeks ago we were just talking about Leagues Cup. A couple weeks ago, you guys had an early exit out of the Leagues Cup, and there were a couple of hashtags going around, man, that LigaMX English community aren't necessarily new to the Fuera Piojo hashtag. How do you feel about that? And how do you feel about just having Piojo as a coach?
Tuca was at Tigres forever, and most of the team has been with Tigres and Tuca for that long. And I knew that's why I wanted Nacho Ambriz, because I felt going from Piojo to Nacho Ambriz would have been a better transition, a smoother transition. But when you go from Tuca ball to Piojo style, it wasn't going to be a smooth transition. And I think you saw it early on. We were just a mess, and a lot of players want to revert back to the old style of playing, and so you have just a clash of styles. A lot of players that don't know where they need to be, so the spacing was off. Um, the passing was terrible early on. Players are not in the right spot, so the ball's not going to go where it needs to go. And we were losing a lot of balls in the midfield, which we're not used to. You know, Tuca ball was very organized, slow but methodical, very pragmatic. And Piojo has come in and asked the players, hey, you need to take more risk. And that means more fouls, losing the ball more. And so you saw it early on. We were just a mess. And
Yeah.
and it was a mix of things, right? You had guys out due to the Olympics. You had guys out with the national team. A lot of guys retired. The schedule's pretty tough, and so it was just the perfect storm. And we showed up, and we weren't ready to play. And it was embarrassing, really. Um, even with a depleted squad, with a lot of the injuries we've had, we should have gone in there and at least battled for a win, and we got thumped. So the the hashtag was at the moment, I think, appropriate. I think had we continued to play that way into the week 7, week 8, honestly, Piojo's job would have probably been on the line. But like I said, he's made changes. He's had at least the smartness to say, hey, we're going to change things up. He was going with the
Yeah.
4-2-3-1 that wasn't working, and he switched to the five-man back line. He's not afraid to make subs, bring in new people, and I think that's helped the team a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think it's now the team looks better. And honestly, I think moving forward, the players will start to get the system in place, and they'll play a lot better than they have.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys, I've been catching some of your games. I try to keep up with as much Liga MX as I can, but yeah, you guys are looking much better. Talk to me about Diente. He's been a very dangerous player. Isn't he the leading goal scorer right now?
Yeah, he's got 6 goals. He's playing great. Like I said, 22 shots on goal this season, which he's by far like on top. And he was a player last year that Tuca would not give him playing time, which was something that none of us could understand because he's fantastic left footer, and he's a fantastic scorer, great dribbler. He gets involved, and we just never understood why Tuca wouldn't play him. The word on the street was that he didn't practice well, but any time he's come on the field for Tigres, he's been fantastic. And now that Piojo's given him playing time and he's got the coach's confidence, he's been able to go out there and deliver. And I think he's one of the better players in the league, and he's showing it now that he's getting playing time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts on your Frenchman? I know he came on and he had a.
Which one?
Not the one who's playing. I know he had a bad debut. He had to be sent off with that red card. But since then, he scored a goal, I think, and he's looking all right. What do you think?
He's playing well. I think he's had to adapt to the league, to the team. So there's a lot of different variables there that go into getting acquainted with the conditions. And I think initially, part of it is even getting acquainted with the refs. That honestly, that red he got in that first game, I don't know if that's a red in the French league.
Really?
To me, it wasn't. It could have been just a yellow, and so I think he's had to adapt in different ways. But the last few games, he's shown that he can get past his defender, and he's definitely a good crosser. I think he's got pretty good speed. I wouldn't say elite speed, but he's got decent speed to lose his defender, get into the box, either cross it or shoot it, and I think he's going to be fantastic. It's just a matter of time before he's able to show it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, hopefully those guys, the two guys we just talked about, don't score on us this weekend because it's going to be a interesting matchup, and we kind of have a few defenders that are out right now.
I read that Diente is not a sure thing to play though. I don't know. Is that true?
Yeah, he got banged up during practice, but from what I'm hearing, Piojo's kind of taking it easy on him, especially today. So I think he'll be ready to play. It didn't look like a major injury.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Well, hopefully he plays, but isn't effective then.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game out there. Louis is going to be out there. Actually, he usually goes to all the games.
Oh, nice.
I'll be there, and then heading up to Houston for the Leagues Cup semifinal the following week. Yeah. Just a side note, I didn't know how to feel about that loss in Seattle for you guys because I cannot stand the Seattle Sounders, being from Portland and being a Portland Timbers fan in addition to Leon. That's one of the teams I cannot stand. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. Tigres are getting walloped. That's kind of fun, especially after coming off of the Club World Cup and being having the most relevant performance of any Mexican club on the international stage, arguably ever, and then getting just thwacked in their very next international compromiso. And then Leon that same night absolutely smashing Sporting Kansas City 6-1 when we had been so irrelevant on the international stage, coming off just two completely unacceptable performances in CONCACAF Champions League and doing that. And so it was a super entertaining night all around. And then I was like, but they're getting beaten by Seattle. I don't want to see Seattle do well. That's no fun. Now I'm hoping that Leon makes it to the final against Seattle in the Leagues Cup and has a chance to throttle them. That would be the most amazing thing.
It would be. Yeah, we'll get him back for you. Don't worry, Luis. So let's see, what else do we have? Lou, you have any other questions for Luis regarding this Saturday's match?
You mentioned the one Frenchman, and I'm wondering about the other. Do you think he's going to play? Do you think he's going to start? And do you think he's going to be effective?
I think he's definitely going to start. He looks ready to go, and I think Piojo is ready to give him playing time. So I think he's going to start, and I'm hoping that we have Diente, Thauvin, and Gignac up front because I think that would That would be a great battle. Now, I don't know what your backline is going to look because I know a lot of you guys, your backline was out on international
Yeah.
play. Like Tecillo is probably going to be out, or I know Mena is definitely out. Holland
Yeah.
already said he's not going to get to play. So
Yeah.
that would be a fantastic matchup because this is probably going to be the best line we've faced this year. Actually, so far, yeah, this will be the best back line, at least on paper, that we would have faced if you guys have your usual starters back there. But if you don't, then better for us. If you got your backups in there, we'll take it.
Yeah, we don't even know who's going to be available. I don't even think Holland knows for sure who's going to be available. It kind of depends on how groggy and weary the guys are getting off. I mean, I was now we know that Midnight's Descartado, but I was checking. Both Carlos and I think were watching some of these international games before we came on. They just ended shortly before we went live.
Mhm.
And Meneses played almost 90 minutes in that. It was, of course, Chile against Colombia. So those two guys were in the same match in Barranquilla. And Meneses played almost 90, scored a goal. Tecillo didn't come on until minute 78 or something. He only played about 12 minutes, something like that. So if I had to guess, if he is able to get to Monterrey in time for the game, he will play.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he will start and play and start. And depending on how close of a game it is, and how badly one side is either winning or losing, he might get subbed off. But he always seems to be match fit. He always seems to be ready to go. He played with a pretty short turnaround after the last international window for us. So I would expect him to play. I don't know if I would expect Meneses to be available. Hasn't been a regular starter anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we would expect to see him as a starter. I think maybe it's just wishful thinking. The one I most want to see available is Tecillo. I think in this matchup, more than Mena or Meneses, I think with the attacking talent that we have amassed in this, especially in this past offseason, I think those are absences we can weather a lot more easily than Tecillo's. So I'm really hoping he's available. I don't care what anybody says about Chavarreyes. I think William Tecillo has been the best left back defender playing on the left side, because sometimes he's a center back, but left side defender in LigaMX this season so far. And so
Yeah, I agree.
I do
Been
not
y'all's
want to be without
MVP.
him. Yeah, and
Yeah, he's been
I do not want to be
fantastic.
without him. Yeah.
Yeah. Luis, you guys have played some pretty good. You played a couple of pretty good teams. I would say, I don't know, Toluca, Santos. But would you consider this match on Saturday your first big test so far?
Yeah, I think so. This is going to be the bigger test. We've played, I think, a softer schedule early on. We've had Querétaro, we've had Puebla, Atlas, Mazatlan. So it's been Xolos is another team. So it's been the softer side of the schedule, and I think now we're starting to get into the meat of the schedule. So we've got León, Rayados coming up. I think it's going to get tougher. So León is certainly going to be more of a test for us, especially because it's a more balanced team. Like, Toluca is likes to attack a lot, but doesn't necessarily defend that great. I think León is the more balanced of the teams, and I think it'll be a big test on our defense. Honestly, that's where we're more susceptible right now. Our defense has been, in disarray. So I think we're gonna see the true Tigres moving forward after this game. If we can put together a good game against León, it's gonna make me pretty confident for the rest of the season. Now, if we come out and look like we did the first half against Santos, then it's gonna definitely worry me. So I think this is a big heat check, big test for us to see where we're at.
Yeah. Give me a couple of players that we should watch out for.
Right now, Dientes is the biggest threat offensively. The midfield is looking pretty good. We've had Carioca, we've had Pizarro as the center mids. Ayala, the youngster, that's another thing. Piojo hasn't been scared to play a lot of the younger guys. And so we've had several central defender midfielders back there that are pretty good. But I think Diente is the one that's coming in the hottest. And then the other guy would be Thauvin, to see how he plays against a better defense. I want to see how he does. He's done well against Mazatlan and Querétaro. He did well against Atlas, but I want to see what he does against a better defense like León. Hopefully León has the starters out there and we can see how he does against, top defenders.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is the game plan for this Saturday for Tigres? You guys gonna go full attack mode? You guys gonna maybe sit back and maybe try to find something on the counter or possession? What do you expect?
Tigres has not done well when they have to sit back and defend. So I don't think it would be a smart strategy of Piojo to try to absorb pressure by León. I think he's going to have to press high, hopefully maybe win the midfield. It's going to be a tough battle in the mid because you guys have, a really solid midfield.
Yeah.
But I think if we can at least play to a stalemate in the midfield and give our attackers a chance, I think that's where we want to be. We want to keep it, in the midfield, keep the ball, recover the ball in the middle third, and then try to see if we can attack. Piojo continues to say that he wants to be a more vertical team, and I think he's doing it by being more aggressive. So I think he's going to try to press when we lose the ball in those transitions, try to get the ball back quickly to be able to attack again. Hopefully we have some decent play on the wings, because when our wingers play well, that gets Gignac a chance to score. And so that's what I want to see, Diente and maybe Taubán or Quiñones on the wings attacking, getting crosses into the box to see if maybe Gignac can score.
Yeah, same here. I feel like when our wingers are really playing well, we generate more opportunities and more, chances for goal. Louis, give me one or two players that Tigres should be looking out for on Leon's side.
Man, it kind of all depends on who's ultimately available to play, But in terms of for sure available players, I guess I got to start with our boy Omar Fernandez, who's been, the gem of that. Can't really call it a trade, but the acquiring of Puebla's two best players from last season, I would say Santiago Ormeño was the one people were more excited about, the one with more potential to make a difference. We were lacking that finishing up front that he was so good at with Puebla. But Omar Fernandez is kind of the unsung hero. The guy has just been amazing, helped us forget about Chapo Montes being out with his playmaking abilities. And I don't expect anything less from him against Tigres. He's been hungry, he's been aggressive, and he's been clinical in every area except his own finishing, except in the League's Cup game against Sporting Kansas City, where there was pretty much no resistance against his brace. You'd like to see him finish a little bit better because he does get 2 or 3 opportunities to shoot on goal pretty directly per game, I would say, no matter what, guaranteed. But his passing has been clinical. His dribbling has been just his individual skills have been incredible. And it's his first season with León, and he came from Puebla. He's not a guy everybody has on their radar every time out. They just think, the guy with the handkerchief around his head, that guy. Yeah, he's pretty good, but they don't even remember his name. I think he's going to want to come out and put his mark on this game. Another one I would say is Santiago Colombato, our kind of hybrid box-to-box, labeled as a defensive, but really more of an attacking build-up style midfielder, playmaking style of midfielder creator, much more of a creator than a recuperador. But he just goes out there and puts in work every time and makes it look easy. His only problem is when he gets too hot-headed and gets amonestado. But if he can avoid doing that, then he's going to put his mark on the game as well. Another guy who has made it seem as though missing Chapo Montes is not a death sentence. So I expect good things from him in the attacking midfield, even though he'll spend some time further back. But I expect good play from him, and he's not coming off. He went to the Olympics and came back and was ready to go 2 days later. He was not on international duty this time, so he'll be completely fresh. And so those would be the first two names that come to mind. And of course, if the CEO is available, he's going to be a headache when Tigres are getting forward. But there's no guarantees there, so I'll stick with those first two.
So mostly midfielders for León and Tigres' attacking three. Those are the players that should probably create the most talk and the most plays, the most talk this Saturday. Quickly, let's jump into predicted lineups. Luis, can you give us like a quick starting 11, like a rough starting? I don't know if you probably don't know who's going to start, but just based on what you know.
Yeah, it's up in the air, but more than likely, Nahuel in the back, Chaka right wing back, Reyes, Ayala, Salcedo as your three center backs, and then on the left, more than likely he's going to go with Aldo Cruz because Venegas is out due to COVID, and then our two central defender midfielders, I'm probably thinking he's going to go with Bigon and Carioca, and then the two wingers on the left and right. What I want to see is Thauvin and Diente Lopez as the wingers, and then Gignac as the lone striker up top.
Oh, so you think he's going to start?
I think he'll start, yeah, and I want to see him paired up with Diente and Thauvin because I think that's going to be a very, very aggressive lineup, and I think Piojo is probably going to want to showcase that. We'll see, but I think. If he doesn't go with Thauvin, it'll definitely be Quiñones. But either way, that's a good trio to have up top.
Yeah, man. If you guys can get those three guys, Diente, Thauvin, and Gignac, going and just playing together, I mean, that's easily like the best three up front in the league. I mean, that's maybe even the most expensive, but we won't get into that. Louis, what do you think for León on León's side? Who do you think gets the starting nod?
Well, for now, I'm going to go with what I said before, that I think the CEO will play and start, despite the short turnaround. This morning, I was trying to investigate if there would even be time to get, if traveling tomorrow, if there'd be time to get from Barranquilla, Colombia, to Monterrey for Meneses and Tecillo, and I think it's possible, probably get in late tomorrow night, or maybe like in early morning Saturday. Not the best conditions, but possible. But I'm still saying Tecillo's going to start, so I would go with Tecillo. Well, Osvi Rodriguez, who should be completely available. Yeah, Cota in goal. Osvi at left back. Tecillo and, well, same back four that played against America. So Osvi, Tecillo, Barreiro, and Mosquera. Colombato.
Yes.
And Jefecito Rodriguez in the defensive midfield. Omar Fernandez, Elias Hernandez, Chapo Montes, who is ready to start.
Oh, okay. That's a surprise.
We didn't really mention, but like one of the other narratives to this game is that both Gignac and Chapo Montes are expected to be part of the plans for their respective sides. Due to the fact of Mina not being available, you got to slot somebody in there, and I think this might be Chapo's moment to start. And then I guess you go with Davila up front, though he is not a true striker. He has been our best striker. So I think you're gonna go with what's working.
Yeah.
One adjustment, Carlos. I said Aldo Cruz on left back, but I think he's gonna go with Javier Aquino as the left wing back.
I totally forgot about Aquino.
Yeah, me too.
That Aquino, he's always a pest. Let's jump into predictions. You guys got your predictions ready? Let's jump into predictions.
Prediction time!
All right, Luis, go ahead.
I'm going to go 2-1 Tigres.
2-1 Tigres. Goals
I go
by?
Diente and Gignac, the scorers.
Okay. I could see that happening. Louis?
Yeah, man, this is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
Like, I think, most of the pundits, not the pundits or YouTubers, whoever, the stuff I've seen are surprisingly leaning towards Leon on this one. And I obviously am going to lean toward Leon too. I think it's going to be same score line, but reversed. Leon 2-1.
Leon 2-1.
It's hard to predict. There's no way I can predict the goleada in the Volcan. Just the history that Leon has had there is not favorable at all. I mean, they've gotten some decent results, some draws in Liguilla that didn't mean anything. Some hard fought matches that ended up in losses in Liguilla. But in terms of wins, they've only had one in something like almost 40 years, which I was in attendance for. It was 4 years ago. Elias Hernandez, who I expect to play an important role against his former team, perhaps scoring one of the 2 goals. I'm not going to say who's going to score the goals, but I think Elias Hernandez is a quality candidate for that. Yeah, scoring on a counter to get that 1-0.
The rule of the X.
Back in the Clausura 2017, I don't remember screaming louder for any goal ever than that.
That was when Boselli was out.
Yeah, Boselli was out. They had no true forwards available in that game, but they somehow pulled out a 1-0 when they were having a terrible season. And Tigres ended up going to the final again that season. But Leon went into the Volcan, and Elias Hernandez got the winning goal, and that was the only win for Leon in the Volcan in something like 40 years. So it's just hard to predict wins in this series, away wins for Leon in this series. But I'm going to do it. I think Leon comes in a little bit stronger side right now. It's pretty close. The other thing to note is for the second jornada in a row, this is the game of the jornada for both for Leon and in the entire jornada. I don't think there's a more interesting match in the entire jornada than this one.
Yep.
And so the stakes will be high, and I think we're going to see a lot of quality. I think it's not the first test for Leon. That was against America. It's the second real test for Leon because other than America and Santos, they've had a pretty soft schedule to begin with as well. And so, but I'm predicting a 2-1 win for Leon.
Cool. I'm going to go with a surprising. First of all, I just got to say it's going to be an incredible game. It's going to be El Partido de la Jornada. And you have 2 very, very good goalkeepers on both sides. You have Nahuel, really good, even with his payasadas. And then you have Cota, who's obviously fresh. I mean, he didn't even play with La Selección, so he should be fresh. But it's going to be a great matchup, and I'm going to say that we're going to get out of there with a draw. I'm going to go with a draw because I don't know, man. This is just what I feel. We have a Leagues Cup match coming up. We don't want to run our guys into the ground playing away at El Volcan, and then we have to travel to Houston. I don't know. I feel like it'll be a very close match, 2 very strong teams. It'll be kind of like the last match against America, where it's Liguilla type atmosphere, and these guys are going to be in the top 4. These guys might even face off in Liguilla sometime. So it's going to be a pretty good match. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 1-1 draw, surprisingly. So as we wrap up, I have a few quick hitters for Luis. Luis, few quick hitters, true or false? I have a few quick hitters for you. 4 questions. Tigres misses Tuca.
False.
False. Gente Lopez will win the scoring title this season.
True. Gignac already said he's going to let him take all the PKs this year, so.
Okay. Another one, Diente Lopez is a better scorer than Gignac. Ooh.
False. Can't go against the king.
Okay. Last one. Tigres will win the title this season.
Man, that's tough.
Damn, you don't sound very confident. I'm
going to go false and then true for the following season.
Okay. So this is sort of like a rebuild season where you guys are.
I think semifinals would be good for us this year.
Okay.
And then once they start to fire, once they get a full season under Piojo, I think next season will be our season.
That's fair. Cool. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Luis. It's always a pleasure to have you on here. Hopefully we get to see you again in Liguilla, and then we can bring you back onto the podcast. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can follow you. Obviously I follow you on Twitter, but I don't know if you have a website, maybe Facebook or YouTube.
No, just Twitter, and I'm at Tigres_English, and that's where you
Tigres.
find me.
Awesome. So yeah, everybody make sure to follow Tigres_English. He does a great job, does a lot of cool stuff for the LigaMX and English community. And that's going to wrap it up for the 88th episode of the Lions Den podcast. Thank you, everybody who was watching. Amy Shapiro, Louis' mom, thank you for tuning in. And anybody else who was in the chat, thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and get out of here and go Leon this weekend. Thanks, guys.